Hello, welcome to another tutorial video. In today's one I'm going to show you how I created this card, or do some couple of variations on this card, because these beautiful deer have different ones in there. So I'm going to do one card with this deer and one card with those two little deer on as well. But this is kind of like the concept that I'm going for. I have already done my hot foiling, because I brought this little hot foil plate that does these polka dots, large polka dots. I can't remember if I bought it for last year's Advent or the year before, but I've still not gotten around to using it, so I thought I'm finally going to have to break this out and use it. So I've already done the hot foiling part, because I thought that can be a tutorial in itself, and a lot of you will probably already know how to hot foil and everything, and it's different for whatever machine you have as well, and I don't think the Go Press and Foil is that readily available anymore, which is the one that I have. But anyway, I have hot foiled this, which is called Polka Dot Strip, and I've used the Moondust hot foil to do that one, and it's kind of like a turquoise with that iridescent sort of finish to it, so it's got like bluey greeny kind of colours in there. So I've done the hot foiling already. However, I'd never used this one before, so I think maybe I used too much pressure, because it's really pushed through to the other side of the card. And then because when you use a lot of pressure with hot foiling, you can often get little bits of overfoiling. So here and here and just down here, I've got a little bit of overfoiling. You can remove it to this degree with a rubber, which is what I have done, but it still won't get that last remaining little bit off. So to disguise that, I brought in some Ultra Sparkle glitter paste from Cosmic Shimmer. I've got the Frosty Sparkle, which is absolutely stunning. I love this one. It's clear, but it's got all of like the colours of the rainbow in it. And then this one is the Ocean Spray, which I think is one of the first colours I ever got of the Ultra Sparkle paste. And it's a really beautiful turquoise that goes nicely with the colour of the foiling. But the reason why I'm adding this is to disguise any of the overfoiling. So this card in particular, which was the first piece that I hot foiled, I had loads of overfoiling on this. There's overfoiling all around this circle, round here, up here, down here as well, a tiny little patch over here, but you can hardly tell, and if I hadn't pointed it out to you, you probably would have just thought it was that glitter paste on there, and not overfoiling in that particular area. But I've disguised it by using the Ultra Sparkle glitter paste on there. So that's the first thing we're going to do, and I've got one that's dry so I can carry on with the rest of the card for you. So I'm going to put a piece of scrap down. It's the same one I was using doing the other background, just so that I don't have to keep wiping off my mat whilst we're doing the video. But I'm going to take the Frosty Sparkle one first, and I'm just going to like scoop out a little bit onto the corner of my spatula, and then just literally scrape it wherever you feel like you want it, or wherever you want to hide your overfoiling. So if you've got areas with overfoiling in this vicinity, then you can put some over there. With the clear one, I'd kind of just use this one to sort of make it look more intentional. So the clear one, I'm going sort of like all over, as if you were intentionally putting this beautiful sparkle paste onto your background. And then with the turquoise Ocean Spray one, I'm actually going to go more deliberate with this one and actually try and disguise those overfoiled areas. So we're going to go heavier up there and a little bit there to disguise that little bit of overfoiling, and then we're going to go heavier in this bottom corner again to disguise the overfoiling that I've done. I could definitely have just, you know, redone these panels, but if you ever have any overfoiling, there's always a way to disguise it and still use the panel. And especially when you're making Christmas cards, you're making so many of them, you don't really want to have to keep starting again if something doesn't go to plan. So having a few ideas up your sleeve of how to kind of like disguise something or still make it usable is quite nice. So that is all of our gorgeous Ultra Sparkle paste on there. You can see how beautifully the colours go together, and having the clear in the background gives you that little bit of extra interest around there as well. If you did want some stenciling in the background, I would recommend stenciling before you put the Glimmer or the Ultra Sparkle paste on, because especially with the clear one where we've spread it out a lot further, if you then stenciled over the top of this once it was dry, you would reveal those smudgy marks where you've kind of like scraped on the actual paste, because there's like excess paste of the clear suspension that the glitter is in all over the card where you sort of smudge the glitter around. So if you stenciled now, you would see those patches of kind of gluey areas, but if you stenciled after you've done your hot foiling but before you put the paste on, that would work as well. So if you did feel like this design needed some stenciling, you can do that. I'm going to leave this one off to the side to dry and clean up my spatula. And then I've got one that has already dried, and kind of originally I was thinking of using a snowflake background stamp that was an all over, but as like snowflake kind of design. I was going to use the sample snowflake background, but because what I just said about you know, having the areas of the paste, I wasn't sure how well that would kind of stamp over the whole thing. So instead I've gone with Sample's Snowman stamp set, which has 2 of the same snowflakes on it. So her background stamp, I used it on another one of my Advent videos. I'm not sure if it'll have been up yet, but this is the gorgeous Snowstorm background, which has smaller versions of those snowflakes. But I'm going to use the larger 2 because I wasn't sure about the whole background interfering with the kind of paste that's on there. So I already know what colour deer I wanted to use. I really love this kind of, I think this card's called Wild Mushroom, and I really love that kind of taupey sort of colour with turquoise. I think it goes really nicely together. So I'd already cut my deer out and I wanted to match my other elements to the deer. So I tried to find an ink pad that was as close in colour to the cardstock as I could, and I found Almond Cream from Nuvo. So I'm just going to use that to stamp my snowflakes in, and because this is a Nuvo hybrid ink pad, if there is any places where like a distress ink or something may not have stuck because of the pasty areas, this is more likely to actually you know, stamp over those areas because it's a hybrid ink, so it will dry permanent as well. So I'm just going to do a couple of larger ones there, and maybe a little bit of a large one coming in from the bottom as well. And then I'm going to do a few of the smaller size too. It would be nice if there was also the smallest size as well, but I think in her stamps, unless it's on one of the sets I don't have from her Christmas collection, I think the only small snowflakes are in that background stamp. But any snowflakes you have would work for this. I just really like this one from the sample stamp set. It's really sweet having those like open dots there. You could put gems or Nuvo drops in those if you wanted to for a different kind of card embellishing your snowflakes. So that is our background for this card. I can't finish the third one because the paste is still wet, but I have 2 options for decoration for the final 2 cards. So I can either go with this kind of like bowing deer, where he's putting his head down. He could be bowing, he could be reaching for some food on the ground, all sorts of things you could sort of intimate that he's actually doing. And then I've got my little sentiment. I've done Peace on Earth as a sentiment on all 3 of these because I feel like deer are very peaceful kind of animals, so I thought that would work really nicely. But I also have the little mum and the baby as well, so I'll prepare all of the deer so I've got them all ready for when that other background dries. But I think for this card I might go with the bowing deer, I think. So for all of these deer, I've die cut 2 of each of them. I just am really enjoying stacking my die cuts at the moment. It just gives it a tiny little bit extra depth than just having the one die cut there, and it makes it kind of look a little bit more like an actual embellishment rather than just being a die cut as well. So I know it does add in more work if you're you know, making lots of these as Christmas cards, but for this one, if you were going to do lots, you've got 4 different deer in one go because you've got the 4 different dies. So, you know, cutting 2 of each of them is not too much extra die cutting because you can cut 4 deer at the same time. They're just all of the different ones to do the different sort of layouts of the cards. So we've stacked these 2 together, just making sure that all of their little legs and antlers kind of line up with each other. So we've got those 2 stacked together, and I'm going to do the mum and the baby as well. And then to make them tie in even more with that ink pad colour, we're actually going to just swipe the ink pad gently over the top of them, just to give them like a little bit of texture and help them kind of tie in with the card, because the I know the foiling is smooth on the dots, but because we've added the paste over the top, we've kind of given the foiling a little bit of texture, and then the paste has so much texture in it as well. I feel like adding that tiny bit of texture to the dia just helps it tie in, and it's not too distractive. So like if I had thought, oh, maybe I just want to get another ultra sparkle paste but in like a gold colour to go with the dia, I think that would be too distracting. But just having a tiny little tone on tone kind of detail on them, I think it works really nicely. So to do this, all we're going to do is literally just hold it in your hand and then take your ink pad at an angle. So I'm going to be holding it at kind of like an angle like this, and then you can just sort of swipe it down the dia just to give it a little bit of interest. And you can get a little bit on the legs, and then you can actually go a little heavier on the antlers to kind of like completely cover the antlers in that slightly darker tone as well then. So we've now got a little bit of distressing on the dia, and it does dry back lighter. So that is it now wet, and when it's dry it is a lot more subtle as well. So that is the dia for the card we're going to finish, but I also want to add just a little bit of that kind of texture detail to the other two dia ready for when I finish the final card as well. Because I don't think that ultra sparkle paste will be dry before I finish the video. But we've got those two dia ready. And then for my sentiment, I decided, again, I really like the stacked kind of idea at the moment. So I've got two white ones, and then I've got one cut out of a tonic glitter card, which has got all of the sort of colours, the sort of beautiful blue, and then this one kind of has like a different blue and a little bit of green in it as well, so it works really nicely with this colour scheme. And even though all of these products are different companies, they've got Spellbinders foil, Cosmic Shimmer pastes and tonic glitter card, you can still find matches between different brands for your different colours as well, which is nice. So let's just put tiny little blobs on the back of the Peace on Earth sentiment. This is one of Sue Wilson's mini expressions as well. This came out in this year's festive releases. I can't remember which set for definite. It was either July or August, I think. I don't think it was June's release. I think it was July or August. But she had quite a few different mini expressions, and I would think throughout the entirety of my CRaFTi Advent series, you've probably seen all of them, because I think I've cut most of them at this point to use on different cards. So that's the two white ones together, and then I'm just going to put a little bit more glue on the back again, and we're going to shadow it with the blue glitter. So the white ones are stacked directly on top of each other, and then we're going to offset the blue glitter one a little bit. So we can just do a tiny little drop shadow. I like to make it be the top left that you can sort of see it poking out of, but whichever way you feel is like natural for you to sort of slide the sentiment around will look perfect. It doesn't seem to matter which direction you add that drop shadow, it always looks really lovely. And there we've got our beautiful Peace on Earth sentiment. Then the finishing touches that I have done on the previous card, it is a different dia, so we're going to do a slightly different layout for the card. We could even twist it to be a landscape card if we wanted to, although I feel like the sentiment gets a little bit lost, although we could do maybe something like that. That would look quite nice actually. Yeah, maybe we will switch this to be a landscape card. So we'll do it like this then. And then on the previous card, for my extra decoration on this, I found some star confetti from my stash, which is just a lighter gold kind of colour. This is actually marketed as like table scattering confetti. I think I just got it in the range or somewhere like that, where they have all of the little bags for like table confetti. So I'm going to use a few of those. I also used some Gold Coast Nuvo drops as well, and in my little basket of tons of things that I have cut for more Advent videos, I have a few of Sue Wilson's beautiful snowflakes cut out of vellum as well. There's this gorgeous die set of hers. I don't know if I can pull this out without messing up everything, but it cuts a strip and then all of the snowflakes fall out of it. So you've got tons of different snowflakes to choose from. So I'm going to pick 3 little snowflakes out of them. I just decided to cut a load of them ready, so whenever I felt like one of my projects needed a few snowflakes on it, I could go with die cut ones rather than using some sequins or something. I thought the die cut ones are really lovely. So I've got those as my embellishments, although I've already lost one of the snowflakes. How did I do that? Oh, it's there. Okay, it flew off to the side. So first of all, I'm going to stick this onto a card blank because I want to put some Nuvo drops on it. And if I don't put it on the card blank now, I'm going to have to wait until the Nuvo drops are dry. So I'm going to move all of these little bits and pieces off of here and tip the sequins off. And then we can put some double-sided tape on the back. And as I've said in lots of these videos, I like to go around all four corners or four edges, going right up to the corners, and then doing a diagonal across the middle. It just keeps it nice and securely in place. Okay, and then we're going to put it up this way. So I've got my fold on the side of the card because we're going to do a landscape one. And I can place it into position, press it down, and I need to trim a little bit off this card blank. I've been leaving them a tiny bit longer recently when I've been trimming my card blanks down, just so that, just in case I've cut a panel, you know, a different size or something, wasn't paying attention or whatever, I can still trim that little bit off the card blank rather than having no edge on that last side. So that is the background stuck on, and then we can place our sentiment and deer back on again, and I'm going to adhere those down first. And we're just going to do the deer flat because we've done 2 layers. He is kind of raised up a tiny little bit, but you could definitely add him with foam tape if you wanted to, but his antlers wouldn't be very secure if you added him with foam tape. But doing the layers of actual die cuts is quite nice because you can have that support behind the little delicate antlers and legs of him. And then for our sentiment, we can put a few little blobs of glue on the back as well. And then tap off the excess and place that in that top right corner. I didn't even think to arrange this card in a landscape orientation, but I really like that. I think that's worked out nicely. So now we can place our elements where we want them to be, like a scattering of them. So because we've got a lot of the stamped snowflakes in this area, I'm going to sort of cluster some bits around here. And then if I pick that last piece out of there, we can add maybe those 2 snowflakes like that, and put these little stars in the kind of vicinity of where those snowflakes are. And we can add in some Nuvo drops as well. So if they look a little bit odd, the placement at the moment, we can add our Nuvo drops to kind of fill in the gaps as well. I like adding them overlapping the creature that you've put on your card too. I think it looks really nice. So I think I'm going to go 5 star sequins with those snowflakes. So I'm going to stick all of them down first, and then we can come back in with our Nuvo drops as well. I love having a mixture of different embellishments for these kind of like scattered designs. You know, when you're adding all of your bits and pieces, it's quite nice to have some die cut bits, some sequins, and some Nuvo drops or gems or pearls or something. It's nice having a mixture because it kind of means that no one else will probably have done that on their card because you've done your own sort of mixture yourself. Okay. Vellum likes to curl up when it gets a little bit wet, so sometimes when you've stuck vellum down it might sort of like curl up a little bit, so you can just push it back down again. And then we're going to go in with a few little Gold Coast Nuvo glitter drops as well. And the thing I love about Nuvo drops is you don't have to have them in loads of different sizes. It's just one bottle and you can make them whatever size you feel is appropriate for the position that you want to put them in, which is really lovely. So we're going to go slightly larger one just there, then a medium size, and a tiny little one up there. And then maybe a tiny little one on the deer as well. And possibly a slightly larger one over here. Maybe a little tiny one here. These are kind of getting lost within this sort of scattering of all of the beautiful sparkly stuff, but I feel like they are still noticeable and they carry that colour across. This is why I picked the Gold Coast colour, because it goes really nicely with the cardstock, the little stars that I used, and the ink pad colour. They work really nicely together. So that is the tutorial for today's video. It's a little bit of a shorter one compared to some of the others, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's more of the length I was aiming for with some of the other ones, but they end up being a lot longer. But those are the two that I now have, and I will do a third one when that background is dry, using the mum and the baby deer with the same sentiment again, and the same embellishments and the same snowflake stamp and everything. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're enjoying the rest of CRaFTi Advent as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!